and those air pillows expand quite a bit, almost like a balloon. So you might find that your bag starts at being a size 30 or 35, but by the time you get to your final destination, they end up a size 40. Hello my friends! Today I'm getting ready to go on a tiny little trip, and I thought I could enlist your help with packing the bag that I will be taking with me, and we could discuss how I personally like to travel with my Hermes bags and more precious pieces, and some of the tips and tricks that I have up my sleeve when it comes to packing your designer bags, be it an Hermes Kelly, Birkin, or any other beloved piece that you want to make sure arrives to your final destination in one piece, safe and sound. So if you'd like to hear my tips and some of the rather disastrous experiments, let's just call them, that I conducted in my early days, that I would recommend that you avoid, then please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and keep on watching. First things first, obviously you have to decide what bag or what bags you will be taking with you. I'm only going to be gone for a couple of days, so I think I'm going to stick to taking one bag. For me, that of course is going to be my holy grail Birkin 35 in black Togo. Just because this bag goes with everything, it's a no-brainer. It fits a ton, but I can also kind of size it down and just pull the sangles in if I don't want to pack it full to the brim. So for me, that is just the perfect bag. Obviously, if you're going to be going away for a little bit longer, you might want to take a few more bags with you, and I will share with you how I would personally do that. But since I'm only going to be gone for a couple of days, one bag is all I need. And personally, when I travel, whether that's flying or going on a road trip, I never put my bags in an actual suitcase. When it comes to flying, I always carry them on, and I try not to even put them into my carry-on suitcase unless I really need to, because I have just way too many moving pieces. I always like to carry my bags with me, and of course when it comes to the road trip, I will never put them in the trunk, I will never put them in a suitcase. I like to keep them close to me just to make sure that everything is fine and they don't get just completely crushed inside of a suitcase. But if you're going to be traveling with multiple bags, I do have a tip for you. So what I would recommend that you do is that you lay out all the bags that you'll be taking on your trip. And I would recommend that you start with the largest bag that you'll be carrying. So in my case, that's usually a Birkin 35 or a Kelly 35, but Birkins tend to be a little bit larger in general. And what I would suggest that you do is that you create a little Russian doll of bags. You would be surprised how many bags you can actually fit into another. So just take the largest bag that you'll be taking and put one size smaller inside of that one. If there's a third bag that is smaller than the second one, you can put that inside of the third one. And you can create basically this doll of bags that you can just pull out after one another. I have done that several times. I did that just about a year ago when we were moving, and it worked for me like a charm. And you can actually put a lot more bags inside another than you would think. So that's something that you might want to consider. But for me today, there is only this one bag coming. I might add in a mini Kelly later on, just because it's such an easy bag to carry. Especially if I'm going to be running up and down, I might want a bag that has the option of a shoulder strap. So yeah, now that I think about it, that might be something that goes in here. And there is plenty of space for a mini Kelly to fit in here. Once you're done deciding exactly what bags will be going with you on vacation, I would recommend that you stuff your bags. If it's ever important to stuff your bags, this is the time to do it. I personally think that the biggest and best thing that you can do to keep your bags in good shape for a lifetime is to stuff them properly when you're using them and even when you're not using them. I have done a video full of tips and tricks on how to protect and care for your bags at home, which I will make sure to link up here. But even when you're traveling, I don't think it's the best idea to keep your bags completely empty, because if they're empty, if there's nothing inside, if something falls on top of it, if it's getting crushed inside of a suitcase or inside of the bag that I'll be sharing with you that I travel with, it's just better to keep it stuffed, so if something is pushing against it, it has something inside to help it bounce back. So there are a couple of things that you can use obviously to stuff your bag. If you are just traveling with one bag and you have the space and you have the luxury of not really caring about how much stuff you're carrying, you can leave things like tissue paper or even bubble wrap on the inside to make sure that they stay properly stuffed. If you want to save on space, you can put things like underwear and socks and t-shirts that you don't really care if they get a little bit wrinkled inside of your bags. So you're not only stuffing your bag and making sure that it is nicely protected and cushioned on the inside, but you're also packing at the same time, so you're killing two birds with one stone. I personally like to keep the insert that I have in my bags, which for me is my 7RP insert in my larger bags. I love these inserts. I have talked about these before. And they really come into their own when it comes to traveling. Not only because they protect your bags on the inside, they help to maintain its structure, but my favorite function about the 7RP inserts is this band on the outside, which was specifically created to fit your passport. And you might be thinking that it's kind of a useless element, you're never going to use it. But let me tell you that every single time I travel, I grow just a little bit more appreciation for this simple band design here, because the last thing you want to be worried about when you're traveling, when you have a ton of paper flying everywhere, especially these days, it's so easy and so just reassuring that you always know where your passport is. You never have to worry about it, because as soon as you're done using your passport, you can slide it right back in there. And I think I still have a discount code with 7RP, which should be active. It's always linked in the info box, but I'm pretty sure I think I am G.P.S 30 to get 30 euros off of one insert, or I am G.P.S 70 to get 70 euros off of two. But I will make sure to leave it in the info box for you again, just to make sure. But if you ever wanted to give these a try, I personally love these for traveling. Now, one thing that I would advise you against, however, is traveling with the air pillows that your bags come with when you first buy them from Hermes. Because what I didn't realize for the longest time is that those air pillows actually expand when you are on a flight. I guess as you're taking off, there is a change in air pressure, and those air pillows expand quite a bit, almost like a balloon. So you might find that your bag starts at being a size 30 or 35, but by the time you get to your final destination, they end up a size 40, because those air pillows expand quite a bit. Trust me, I'm talking from experience. Even though I won't have anything larger than this go inside the bag that I'll be traveling with this time, I still put this in its dust bag just because it's better to be safe than to be sorry. You can never know if you're flying what you pick up at the airport. You might want to buy a book or a magazine and shove it inside of the bag that you're traveling with. And the last thing you want is for those to scratch the outside of your bag. Yes, it might sound like a lot of effort, but these are expensive bags. So I personally like to make sure that I take good care of them if I can. But the next step that I always do is put my more precious bags inside of a larger tote or a duffel. I'm personally not a duffel kind of guy. I just find them way too fussy to travel with. They are usually really heavy. You have to carry them. The shoulder straps are never comfortable. So I'm a carry-on suitcase kind of guy. But what I like to pair those with when I'm traveling with larger bags like this is this tote bag that I'm pretty sure I've talked about before, that I continue to love and use. This is by a brand called MZ Wallace. You can find this, I think I bought this either from Bloomingdale's or Nordstrom. It's not ridiculously expensive. It's by no means cheap for a really simple tote bag. But for the quality and how often I use this, for me, it has definitely paid off. And it's basically this really, I don't know if I would call this large, but it's a really sizable tote bag that has this quilting on the outside. And it basically weighs nothing. It is completely featherweight. But the reason I love this is, number one, it's extremely light, but it is sturdy, and because of all the quilting on the outside, it is quite soft. So whatever you put inside of this, you can be assured that it will be kept safe, because there's just so much fabric going on the outside that not much can get to what you put on the inside. So I love putting things that I want to keep safe in here. Not to mention that it is incredibly comfortable to use. You have these two top handles that are fully padded. They're quite wide, so they're not going to be falling off your shoulders. You also get an adjustable shoulder strap. You have a bunch of pockets on the inside. It comes with these little pouch bags that you can either put inside of the bag or you can take them out. You have this key ring, which I always like to have because you never want to be without your keys, especially when you get home after a long flight or a long trip. You just don't want to be looking for your keys. So I love this. I will have it linked down below for you if you're looking for a great gym bag or travel bag. I would highly recommend this, especially because this one is quite subtle. It doesn't have any branding on the outside. Of course, there are a bunch of brands out there who create some great tote bags, but I personally like something like this when it comes to traveling, that I just don't have to worry about too much. It's not cheap by any means, as I said, but for how often you'll use it and for the quality, for me, it was definitely worth the price. So next up, I will take my largest bag, whether it has any other bags on the inside or just stuffing inside here. And this is not a step that you necessarily have to do. I think it might be enough for you to keep your bag in its dust bag, but I personally like to have something on the outside just kind of as a protective shield, because you do so much with your bags when you're flying or even just traveling that you don't even realize. If you're going on a road trip, you usually have your bags next to your feet, you kick them with your shoes, you shove them underneath your seat. The same thing goes for flying. You put them in that X-ray machine when you're going through security. You might be asked to put your bags underneath your seat or in the overhead bin. There's just a lot going on, and you never know what's hiding underneath that seat that you're going to push your bag in or under, or what drags and marks it. I feel more comfortable having something on the outside, and this, because it's so padded and so soft, but it's not heavy, is the perfect thing to go for. And as you can see, even though this tote bag is not overwhelming by any means, it does fit a lot. It not only fit one Birkin 35 quite easily, but it would also fit two. You might be wondering how I know that. That's because I tried it. I was desperate one time to get two Birkin 35s onto a plane, and I didn't want to get told off for having too much carry-on. So I put one bag like this stood up and another one upside down with the handles facing downward, which I would not recommend for anyone to do, but I only needed to go through security and my gate, and then I ended up taking out the bag from here. But I have to tell you, it did the trick, so I'm really happy with this. Obviously, you don't have to go out to buy yourself a brand new tote. If you have one at home that is soft, lightweight, but kind of sturdy, those will do the job too. I'm personally a big fan of this, however. And what I also like about this is that it's quite subtle. It doesn't have any branding on it. It's not shouting. You probably don't want to bring too much attention to yourself when you're going through customs and security, just to be like, hey, I have a lot of exciting stuff in my bag. Why don't you search my bags? Because it's really annoying getting pulled aside. It had never happened to me until last year when I was moving, and I was pulled aside and they took almost everything out of my bag and my carry-on. Thankfully, they didn't get to my larger suitcases, but they had me take everything out, which was perfectly fine. But then putting everything back into your bag that was nicely, neatly put in, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, let me just put it that way. So two things that I would highly recommend that you do, just to make sure that if you get into that sort of a situation, you are in a comfortable position. If you are traveling with an exotic bag, make sure that you have your sights on you. Sights are the certificate that you get with any exotic purchase. I personally wouldn't worry about taking sides if I'm just traveling with smaller accessories. But if you have an exotic bag with you, just take the sides just to make sure that you can prove if it's ever needed that your bag was ethically sourced. And then another thing that you can do if you're going for a longer period, if you maybe have a house abroad or if you're moving as I did last year, and you'll be traveling with more than you would if you were just going on vacation, is that you can actually request all your receipts to be pulled from the Hermes system. Your home store won't be able to do that, but they can put you in touch with a department within Hermes, or they can give you an email address that you can email and you can request certain receipts, or you can request all of them. You can either ask them to send you the original receipts that you basically got, or a copy of them when you originally purchased the pieces, or they can give you a more condensed version with just basically an Excel sheet with every single one of the items that you need, which is what I got last year. And I was so happy that I had it in the back of my mind that I have that. They didn't ask for it, but it just made me feel comfortable that I could prove that I'm not taking these things to be sold, but they are actually my pieces that I bought over a long period of time. So that is another tip for you that you might want to consider. Just keep the receipts on you if you're traveling for a longer period, or if you're traveling somewhere where they have really strict rules. That is something that you can absolutely take advantage of. And this is it, my friends. These are all my tips and tricks when it comes to traveling with your precious pieces. Most important, in my opinion, is stuffing your bags. And I personally like to put them inside of another tote just to make sure that I cover all my bases. If you're traveling with a smaller bag that this you find would be overwhelming for, like a mini Kelly, I have been known to just take a mini Kelly and put it in its dust bag. And even if you close the dust bag really tight, you can still pull out the shoulder strap and put it crossbody or over one shoulder. So you're just kind of making sure that the body of the bag is covered with the dust bag. I forgot to mention that earlier on. But if you're traveling with a smaller bag, that's also something that you could do. I would probably turn the dust bag so the Hermes logo is facing you, and then the outside of the dust bag is just a little bit more subtle. But yeah, that's another tip for you that I have. But that is all I had to share for today. Please let me know in the comment section if you have any tips for traveling. I always love learning from you. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here, and I hope to see you in the next one.